"You'll never be half the man my ex is," she said, loud enough for the couple 2 tables over to hear. That's the moment everything shifted. Not when she said it, but when the silence afterwards sank in like wet concrete. Forks hovered. Glasses froze midair. I watched a drop of wine cling to the rim of her goblet, like even it wanted to get the hell out. Across from me, Denise smirked with the confidence of a woman who thought she'd won something. It was our anniversary. 40 years since we met. 36 since we married. 24 since we moved into that house I spent 2 years designing from scratch. 12 since I retired and gave her the freedom to find herself through yoga, a nonprofit board seat, and, apparently, reminiscing about her high school quarterback ex like he was some kind of life benchmark. She looked at me like she expected a reaction. I gave her none. I finished chewing. Swallowed. Dabbed the corners of my mouth with the cloth napkin like I was judging a steak, not a marriage. Then I nodded once, evenly. "Thanks for the update," I said. Her friends at the table, our friends, once upon a time, shifted uncomfortably. Carol reached for the check. Mitch pretended to get a work call. The waiter stood there with my creme brulee, deciding whether to place it or flee. But I didn't move. Didn't blink. I took the dessert. The thing no one realized, especially Denise, was that my silence wasn't shock. It was strategy. I had already known. The way she'd been leaving subtle hints like breadcrumbs from a woman who wanted to get caught, but needed to feel like a victim when she did. The gym bag that always smelled like cologne that wasn't mine. Her sudden rediscovered taste for whiskey sours, his old favorite. According to a yearbook she once drunkenly forced me to flip through. The playlist on the kitchen speaker, all 90s throwbacks. Nostalgia with a heart on. And the telltale symbol? She wore the emerald necklace he gave her in college. The one I found in a sealed box in our attic 5 years ago and never mentioned. She claimed she pawned it during a rough patch. Now, there it was around her neck, glinting like a neon sign screaming I miss him. So no, I wasn't surprised. I was calibrated. I watched her laugh as we left the restaurant, arm in arm with Carol, whispering loud enough for me to hear. He just sat there. Like a statue. Doesn't even fight for me. They thought I'd cracked. That I'd retreat back into the quiet little man cave she never visited. That I'd stew and lick invisible wounds while she played coquette on social media and slid her ring off for photo shoots. But I wasn't stewing. I was downloading. Because 2 months earlier, I'd hired a digital forensics firm. Nothing flashy, just a friend's referral after Denise mistakenly sent me a Venmo mint for someone named Jay. The note said, "Last night was fire," followed by 3 chilly emojis and a wink. I played dumb. "Is this for me?" She replied. "Oops, meant to send it to Janet." Right, Janet, who lives in Iowa and thinks texting is evil. That oops cost her everything. I had to mirror her phone, quietly, legally. Every photo, note, app backup, and voice memo now mirrored to a separate cloud folder she didn't know existed. I didn't even look at it right away. I waited. Let her dig the hole. Let her pour champagne into it. Now it was deep. And after that dinner, the final shovel full had been tossed. In the parking lot, she asked me, "Not gonna say anything?" I looked at her like she was a background actor in someone else's movie. Then unlocked the car door and got in without a word. Let her talk. Let her gloat. Let her pull out her phone and text God knows who about the loser she's stuck with. I saw it. I had it. Every photo. Every late night, thinking about you. Whisper she thought was just between her and whatever ghost she was chasing. That night, as she fell asleep smug in her triumph, I opened my laptop. Typed a single sentence. Proceed. She made it public. Then attached a file. Titled it Pre-Anniversary Revisions. Sent it off. While she dreamed of her ex, I was erasing her future. One clause at a time. The first message hit the group chat less than 20 minutes after we got home. I was still taking off my shoes. He just sat there. Like a loser. Then the kicker. Honestly, it was too easy. I almost felt bad. Almost. 3 laughing emojis. A gif of a bored cat. And a selfie she took under the restaurant chandelier, with me in the background. Blurry, mid-bite. She captioned it, "This man thinks we're still in love." They all laughed. Carol, Lauren, even Marcy, her cousin who once cried on our couch when her boyfriend left her for someone younger. Now she was in on the joke too. I didn't respond, didn't confront, didn't slam a door or throw a glass. I walked past her in the hallway. She didn't even look up from her phone, still chuckling, still scrolling. She called out, mockingly, "Don't worry, Roger. You were a great audience." I stopped only to glance at the thermostat. She always turned it up when she drank. Cheap wine turned her into a sweaty narcissist. I adjusted it back down, calmly, clinically. In my office, I powered on the MacBook Pro she never knew the password to. Not the main one. The other one. The quiet one. The folder was already open. Exit package. Inside, PDF copies of our trust agreement. Timeline spreadsheet tracking every suspicious transaction from the last 18 months. Screenshots of all her mirrored messages. A scanned copy of a prenup she thought had expired, but didn't. And one new document. A revised property distribution clause, marked, "Ready for review," by my lawyer. I typed a brief message. Miles. As discussed. Initiate process under the public disparagement clause. Refer to Addendum 3, pages 4 and 7. Upload full documentation to court portal. Confidentiality flag on. Subject, activate. Then I attached the file. Titled simply, Pre-Anniversary Revisions.pdf. It uploaded fast. My internet never lagged. I hovered a moment before pressing send. There was no satisfaction. No smugness. Just a stillness that comes when you realize the person across the hall from you doesn't exist anymore. Denise was still giggling to herself when I passed the kitchen. Now on a video call with Lauren, recounting the toast like it was some kind of victory lap. And I said, "You'll never be half the man my ex is. You should have seen his face, Lauren. He looked like a kicked puppy. He actually just thanked me, can you believe that?" Lauren's voice crackled through the speaker, "Girl, that's iconic. I swear, you should have been on Real Housewives." Did he even flinch? "Nope," Denise said, taking a long sip. "Like a statue. Honestly, I think he's going senile. Makes this easier." She laughed again. Harder this time. I stood by the fridge, just long enough to see the reflection of her face in the microwave door. So pleased with herself. So utterly unaware. She didn't know that tonight, she didn't just humiliate a man, she detonated her safety net. The thing about timing is, most people don't realize they're in the trap until it's already snapped shut. By the time she'd finished her third glass, my attorney had already submitted the documents for emergency review. The house she thought we co-owned was now flagged under asset reassessment. The shared account she used to buy her new shoes last week? Frozen by court order. She thought she'd embarrass me in front of friends. What she really did was hand me legal ammunition in front of witnesses. The most powerful trigger isn't rage. It's silence. And I had just pulled it. At 1:17 a.m., her laughter changed. Not the loud, attention-demanding cackle from earlier that evening. This one was quieter. Intimate. The kind she used to reserve for inside jokes and bedroom whispers. I heard it through the wall, not loud, but sharp enough to cut through drywall and dignity. She was lying in bed, legs tangled in the overpriced linen sheets I bought last fall, whispering into her phone like a teenager sneaking past curfew. I didn't need to listen in. I already had a copy. Denise had no idea her iCloud backups were mirrored. I hadn't installed spyware or anything illegal. I'm not stupid. I used a recovery trick an IT buddy showed me after his own divorce scorched his life. Create a secondary iCloud device under the same Apple ID, register it quietly, and let it sync. All legal. All trackable. All hers. Everything she saved, I saw. Every text. Every live photo. Even the ones she deleted seconds later. So I knew when she typed. Guess who I humiliated tonight? I saw the little photo she attached, me, looking down at my creme brulee, the background blurred. She cropped it just enough to cut out her wine glass and her friends' stunned faces. Then the follow-up text. "Wish it were you I came home to," followed by a black heart emoji. The digital version of spit in my face. His name? Jared. That was the J from her botched Venmo transfer months ago. He used to bartend at a resort we stayed at 15 years ago. She ran into him at her friend's yoga retreat last spring, the one she swore didn't even have cell reception. Turns out it did, just not for me. The irony? He's now a landscaping contractor with an ego so inflated you could spot it from space. And she was trying to resurrect their little high school summer romance meets midlife delusion like some sad Lifetime movie. She thought this was power. that mocking me in a private thread made her some kind of femme fatale. But this wasn't seduction. It was evidence. At 1:21 a.m., she sent him another message. You were always better in bed. Even back then. Wish I hadn't settled. I didn't even flinch. Instead, I clicked download on the .zip archive syncing from her cloud to my secured drive. All labeled. All timestamped. All admissible. People think betrayal hurts because of the infidelity. It doesn't. It hurts because of the confidence. The way they act like you'll never know. Like you're too slow, too kind, too old, too blind to catch on. Like your silence equals stupidity. But in my silence, I was archiving. By 2:04 a.m., her entire photo roll had synced, including a shot from last weekend's girls-only trip. The one where she said they stayed in, watched movies, drank tea. Funny, I don't remember her friends having tattoos that say warrior on their hips or hands rough enough to belong to a man who lays brick 5 days a week. There he was, a Jared, shirtless, holding a champagne bottle in the background while Denise posed with a pout. She saved it under the name DSCN_1434. Lazy. Predictable. I forwarded it all to Miles, my attorney. Subject line. Supplemental materials. Disparagement plus adultery threats. No commentary. No emotion. Just data. Back in the bedroom, I heard the buzz of her phone vibrating on the nightstand. She giggled again, this time softer, as she typed another reply. I didn't bother to check it. I didn't need more. The goal wasn't confrontation. It was construction. Brick by digital brick, I was building the wall she'd slam into. She thought she was writing a love story. I was writing the conclusion. And she had just given me the final paragraph. At 3:12 a.m., Denise was snoring softly beside an empty wine glass and an ego freshly polished with delusion. At 3:13, I was logged into the family financial dashboard, quiet, deliberate, no wasted motion. She'd never bothered learning how it worked. That was always Roger's thing. Her talents, as she often reminded dinner guests, were more interpersonal. Translation: she flirted well, remembered birthdays, and could charm any waiter into giving us free dessert. But estate structuring? Tax-shielded investments? That lived in my world. And tonight, that world closed its doors behind her. I started with the joint brokerage account, $500,000 and change. Not bad for a man she called retired and boring. I'd already set up the firewall a year ago, when she first started getting too busy for our Sunday rituals. The trust was dormant back then, just a shell. Tonight, it woke up. The money moved fast, into the Calhoun Heritage Irrevocable Trust. Irrevocable being the key word. Denise's name wasn't anywhere near it. Never had been. Calhoun. That's my mother's maiden name. I even used it on the paperwork just in case she ever sniffed around. By 3/26, the trust owned the brokerage account, the post-retirement real estate fund, my pension rollover, and a little bonus, the residuals from a patent I'd sold back in '09. Small but poetic. Next, the house. She thought it was ours. Laughed once about putting up her Pilates certificate in the guest room like it meant something. But the title? That hadn't been in our names for over 4 years. Back when my niece graduated law school, we formed a holding company, Pinewheel Capital, LLC. I told Denise it was a tax write-off for her internship. She bought it. Hook, line, and Chardonnay. In reality, Pinewheel bought our house. Cash. Quietly. I still paid the property taxes, still did the yard work, still repaired the gutters. But legally, we were tenants. With a month-to-month agreement. The only difference between a landlord and a husband is paperwork. And I had plenty. By 3/41, I'd filed a notice of reorganization with the county clerk, routine, automatic. But it ensured that in any asset audit, Denise's name would appear nowhere. Her contribution to the property had been a Pinterest board and a very aggressive argument over backsplash tiles. 3/49, I opened the secondary checking account, one I hadn't touched in months, seated long ago for a rainy day. That day had arrived. I moved the remaining joint funds, $87,492.14. Clean sweep. Denise had always insisted on using a black Amex with her name on it. Image over access. The joint card, however, the one connected to actual money, she hadn't swiped it since Easter. That worked out nicely. By 4 o'clock, I'd rerouted the mailing address for all statements to a P.O. box registered to the trust. I even updated the online profile image. Something new. Something symbolic. A raven. Not because I'm superstitious, but because I like the idea of a bird that waits, watches, and never forgets. I closed the laptop, poured myself a glass of water. She stirred in bed, rolled over, mumbled something like, NGH, thermostat's broken again, then curled back into sleep. No, sweetheart. The thermostat works just fine. You're the one who's frozen. Tomorrow she'd wake up thinking she still had options, still had leverage, still had some version of me on standby, waiting for her tantrum to pass. But tonight, I became untouchable. While she dreamed about Jared's compliments and her next Instagram caption, I'd locked every exit behind her. The audit wasn't just cold. It was surgical. I woke up at 9:43 a.m., a luxury I hadn't allowed myself in years. Sunlight was already pushing through the blinds, slicing across the hardwood floor like quiet applause. I stretched, yawned, and padded into the kitchen. French press. Kenyan roast. Quiet hum of the refrigerator. I didn't rush. Let the world scream. I'd built this moment to be silent. When I finally reached for my phone, the screen lit up like a Christmas tree strapped to a panic attack. 255 missed calls. Denise. Her sister. A number I didn't recognize. One listed as Yoga Susan. Another with no ID, probably Jared doing his best impression of someone who still mattered. And the voicemails. God. The voicemails. First one. Denise. Screaming. Not dramatic crying, this was feral. Why is my card declined? I'm at the damn gas station and this idiot is holding my wallet. Roger. Call me right now. She was breathing like she'd run a marathon fueled by entitlement and espresso shots. Next message. Her sister, Cynthia. Fake sweet, but on edge. Roger. I don't know what's going on, but Denise is hysterical. She said the house, your house, is locked? Changed locks? Are you okay? I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. That word again. Misunderstanding. Like adultery's just bad communication. The third one was my favorite. Jared's number. Short. Clipped. Hey man. Not sure what's happening, but Denise is really upset. Thought maybe we could talk. Click. I didn't even finish it. I let the voicemail delete itself like it wasn't even worth storing. Meanwhile, texts were coming in like popcorn kernels under pressure. Roger, this isn't funny. Are you seriously freezing me out? The mortgage company said the account name changed. Where is our money? What did you do? Each message more frantic than the last. But what caught my eye wasn't the screaming. It was the timestamps. Her first attempt had been at 7:12 a.m., right after she tried to buy coffee. Her Amex declined. She thought it was a glitch. Then her debit card failed at the gas station. By 7:30, she was at her sister's house, using Cynthia's phone to try my number again and again. By 8:15, she called the bank. By 8:27, the words, unauthorized account modification probably left her lips for the first time. And by 8:59, she called her lawyer. I know, because the bank's fraud department called me for verification at 9:01, just as I was pouring my second cup of coffee. I confirmed everything. I wasn't hiding. I was reorganizing. By 10:06, the last voicemail came in. Denise again. Quieter this time, but more dangerous. If you don't call me back, I swear to God, I will make this ugly. I will ruin you, Roger. You think you're smart? You think you're the victim here? No, Denise. I was the victim. Past tense. Now, I'm just the man holding the receipts. She tried calling one more time as I opened my news app. I declined the call mid-ring. Let her stew in the rejection. Let her sit in that echo chamber where she always assumed I was the lesser man. She still hadn't figured out that her power had been rented, leased through my goodwill, financed by my patience. And I'd repossessed every inch of it. While she panicked, I took a sip of hot coffee. Calm, steady, clean. Sometimes revenge doesn't require shouting. Sometimes it just requires not picking up the phone. By 11:02 a.m., Denise was on the road, driving like a woman possessed, wearing sunglasses that didn't hide the mascara streak down her cheekbones. The phone was on speaker, bouncing between her lap and the center console, still calling me every 5 minutes like repetition could summon control. Traffic lights blurred. Horns honked. She didn't notice. All she knew was that her name no longer worked at the bank. Her cards were dead, and the mortgage company had said something about corporate restructuring. Her reality had started bleeding at the edges. She needed an anchor. She needed the house. The place with the rose bushes she pretended to water for Instagram. The kitchen where she burned soup but filmed herself plating takeout like a gourmet chef. The upstairs bathroom with the mirror she called her truth teller because, in her words, it made her look younger than Roger deserves. That house was more than walls to her. It was her stage. So when she pulled into the driveway at 11:49 a.m., she expected to step back into her kingdom. To stomp up the stairs, find me brooding in the den, and start her monologue about what I'd really meant by all this. Maybe even cry. She was good at tears when cornered. But the house didn't greet her. The keypad glared red. Her key didn't fit. She tried again. Harder. Jammed it like force could negotiate. Then moved to the side door. Same result. Even the garage had a new panel. The panic rose faster this time. Not the controlled chaos of morning bank calls. This was raw, primal confusion. She pounded on the door with her palm, then with both fists. Shouting now. Roger, open the damn door. What the hell is this? Nothing. The house was still. She pressed her face to the window by the dining room, shielding her eyes from the glare. That's when it hit her. The chandelier, the one she insisted we install for ambience, gone. The dining table replaced by something sleek, modern. Glass and chrome instead of reclaimed wood. No trace of the beige runner she bought from that overpriced boutique. No framed wedding photo on the shelf. And the worst part? Shoes by the door. Not mine. Not hers. New ones. Women's. Size 7. Maybe. Black flats, neatly aligned on a mat she didn't buy. Her face went pale. She ran around to the back patio, tried to slide open the door she used to leave ajar for fresh air. It didn't budge. She rattled it, stomped, screamed. A voice called out from across the street. Denise. She turned. It was Harold. Retired, widowed, and nosy as hell. Always trimming his hedges like the yard was a battleground. I thought you moved out last week, he said, blinking. Didn't know you were coming back. She stared at him, blinking like she'd just been slapped. What are you talking about? He scratched his chin, oblivious. That younger woman, the one with the curly hair, she moved in last Thursday, right? Thought it was your niece or something. I said hello. She said she was the new tenant. Place looks great, by the way. Tenant? Tenant? Her head spun. She turned back to the house. The mat at the door no longer said welcome. It said live deliberately. A new life had started in her house. Denise stood frozen for a full 30 seconds before she grabbed her phone again. No missed calls. No new messages. She typed, fast, thumb shaking. Roger. We need to talk. This isn't funny anymore. Did you rent the house? Sell it? I have rights. You can't do this. I will call a lawyer. I will. But I'd already seen it. The text synced to the archive folder in real time, landing next to last night's flirty whispers and this morning's meltdown. She tried calling again. Straight to voicemail. And across town, I sat in a downtown cafe, sipping espresso, reading the lease agreement my niece had drafted. 12-month term. Paid in full. Tenant, Claire Harper. My niece. Law degree, excellent credit, no tolerance for drama. The house hadn't vanished. It had simply moved on. And Denise? She was locked outside of a life she thought she could humiliate and still own. The doorbell rang at exactly 3:06 p.m. Cynthia opened it, still in her robe, annoyed. She was halfway through her second mimosa and didn't appreciate surprises, especially not from couriers holding clipboards. Signature required. The man said, emotionless. Brown uniform, clean clipboard, envelope thick enough to slap. No return address. For Denise R. That's my sister, Cynthia cut in. She's... I'll wait, he said, already raising the stylus. Denise came stomping down the hallway, barefoot, phone still in hand from her 50th unanswered call to me. Her hair was a mess, eyeliner smudged into war paint. She looked like she'd just run a marathon through legal ambiguity. She signed without reading. Assumed it was a lawyer, or the bank, or maybe even a pathetic apology letter from me with flowers stuffed inside like I used to do when we were 25 and still believed in soft landings. Instead, she opened the envelope and pulled out the first document. Marriage nullification via trust dissolution. Not a divorce filing. Not a request. A declaration. Full summary. Neutral tone. Deadly consequences. The trust that shielded every asset was formally, irrevocably severed from her. No appeal. No negotiation. The second page. Court notification. Transfer of ownership validated. Stamped. Signed. Official. The house she just got locked out of? Never hers. The bank had acknowledged the full transfer. And the new tenant, Claire Harper, was fully legal, fully paid. Denise had as much standing as a raccoon on the front porch. The third page? A still image. Low-res. Cropped. But unmistakable. Her phone screen. Message bubble. Guess who I humiliated tonight? Under it. My face, bored, chewing steak, unaware she was staging a photo for the man she'd been mentally undressing all year. The ex she swore was a lesson, not a person. Denise stared at it, color draining from her skin like someone had pulled the plug. Then she reached the final piece. A handwritten note, single sentence. Centered. This wasn't about him. This was about you not seeing me. No signature. No threat. No closing flourish. Just that. The world didn't end in screaming. It ended in silence. She sat down on the couch without saying a word. Cynthia asked, "What is it?" Once, maybe twice. No answer. Denise just stared at the note like it had hit her with more force than any courtroom ever could. It hadn't just told her she lost. It told her why. She'd always believed humiliation was a power move. Something to toss out like confetti while I stood beneath it, smiling through gritted teeth. But this was calculated, choreographed, clean. And for once, there was no one to perform for. No audience. No laughing group chat. Just a couch, a courier slip, and a truth she couldn't twist. This wasn't about her ex. It was about her blind spot. Me. She arrived late. Of course. Wearing oversized sunglasses that didn't match her outfit and a wrinkled blouse that looked like it had been pulled from the floor of her sister's guest room. Her hair, usually styled within an inch of its life, hung limp around her shoulders. Her posture screamed defiance, but her hands betrayed her. Fidgeting, gripping the purse strap like it could anchor her to some version of reality that hadn't already dissolved. The cafe was neutral territory. Mid-tier, midtown. Clean, beige, boring. No memories. No nostalgia. Just quiet jazz and the whir of a decent espresso machine. I was already seated. Black coffee. No cream. No sugar. Just the taste of finality. She spotted me, adjusted her glasses like armor, and walked over with the kind of fake composure that burns calories. She didn't say hello. Didn't sit right away. "I have no idea what this is supposed to prove," she snapped, arms crossed. "You think playing some weird lawyer card game makes you look strong? It makes you look petty." I sipped my coffee, set it down, then slid the folder across the table with 2 fingers, calm, surgical, silent. She didn't touch it, just stared. "You said I'm not half the man your ex is," I said, voice low. "Good news, he gets half the blame too." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "What is this?" "Documentation," I said, "in case you needed help remembering who played what role." She finally opened it. First page, a bank transaction timeline. Not mine, hers. Tagged purchases, hotel stays, withdrawals in odd cities. Timestamps cross-referenced with photos she'd sent me from supposedly different places. Second page, GPS pings. Her phone, her car. Location histories pulled legally, linked through a shared auto insurance login she never bothered to update. She always said I was too old school to know tech. Turns out I was just quiet. Third page, photos. Private investigator, 6 weeks worth. Denise kissing Jared in the parking lot of a Holiday Inn Express, 2 hours before she told me her friend had a wellness emergency. Another shot. Her checking into a lakeside Airbnb that had 1 bed, not 2. Timestamped. She flipped faster now, hands shaking, still trying to find the one page that would explain it away, reframe the narrative, reclaim the spotlight. Instead, she hit the final section, her own texts, printed and highlighted. "You were always better in bed. I wish it was you I came home to." Roger just sat there. What a joke. I watched the moment it clicked. Not just that I knew, but that I planned to know. That I hadn't stumbled into this. I had built it. This is low, she muttered, pushing the folder away like it might bite her. No, Denise, I said. You went low? I just kept the receipts. She blinked fast, voice tighter now. You could have come to me. We could have talked about this like adults. Worked through it. I mean, Christ, Roger, we have history. I leaned in, smiling just enough to sting. You had a choice, partnership or performance. You chose the stage. This is your closing act. She sat back, folding her arms. So what now? You want an apology? A confession? I took one last sip of coffee. No, I said. I want exactly what I already got. Peace. She didn't get up. She didn't scream. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, Denise was completely still. The weight of the folder on the table seemed to grow, each page an anvil. As I stood to leave, I paused behind her chair. I let you play your game, I said quietly. Now I'm just cashing in the score. And then I walked out. No final jab. No lingering look. Just silence. And her, alone at the table, holding the evidence that her show was over. The email came at 8:03 a.m. sharp. Subject line: Mandatory appearance, confidential mediation review. From a law office she didn't recognize, addressed formally. No dramatic threats, no caps lock, no ultimatums. Just a date, a time, and an address uptown. Professional. Surgical. Denise forwarded it to Cynthia with, "He's pulling one of his legal mind games again, face with rolling eyes, whatever. I'll show up and shut it down." She showed up in heels too tall for confidence and makeup too thick for mourning. She walked into the building like she was still the protagonist, still the woman who could spin a narrative if she just spoke fast enough. The receptionist offered a glass of water. She declined. She always did. Admitting thirst was, in her mind, a kind of weakness. A tall, stone-faced man in a charcoal suit opened the door to the meeting room. "Ms. R, this way." The room was cold. One long table, 3 chairs. A flat screen on the wall already playing, muted. She froze mid-step. On screen, a still from the restaurant. Her face twisted mid-toast, eyes glinting with cruelty, wine glass raised. Then video. Her voice. Crystal clear. "You'll never be half the man my ex is." Laughter. Hers. Louder than she remembered. Roger, calmly chewing. Still. Unmoved. She blinked rapidly, as if that could turn it off. "Is this some dramatic little project?" she snapped. "Did he hire a filmmaker for this?" The lawyer said nothing. The screen changed. Footage from a hotel lobby. Her checking in with Jared. Wearing yoga leggings and oversized sunglasses. Her hand resting on his chest at the reception desk. Next, them in the hotel bar. Clinking glasses. His hand on her thigh. Then a cabin porch. Denise curled in his lap. Laughing. Shirt half off. Camera angle low. Far off. Long lens. She stepped back. Instinctive. Primitive. That's a violation," she stammered. The lawyer, still silent, clicked a remote. Paused the video. The screen froze on her kissing Jared outside a rental car. "I believe," he said calmly, "you referred to these as your weekends with friends." Denise's knees almost buckled. She caught the chair and dropped into it. "No one was supposed to see that," she whispered. "We have bank statements. Text logs. Hotel bookings. All admissible," the lawyer continued, sliding a folder toward her. "You've publicly disparaged your husband in front of multiple witnesses. You've committed ongoing adultery. You've used joint assets to fund those activities." She didn't respond. Her mascara was cracking now, betraying the shock she was trying so hard to suppress. "And," he said, flipping to the final document, "you breached the moral behavior clause in your prenup, an agreement that, I must clarify, never expired." Denise looked up, lip trembling. "You're bluffing. He wouldn't go public." He's not like that." The lawyer held her gaze. "I'm not here to convince you he would. I'm here to ask if you'd prefer he didn't." Silence. Then he reached into a briefcase and pulled out a pen. "These are the terms. You waive any claims to the house. No spousal support. You retain your car, your personal belongings, and a modest severance payment from the trust, signed, not negotiated." She stared down at the folder. Her own name printed in cold font above the words "waiver of entitlement." Her voice cracked when she spoke. "He really filmed everything?" The lawyer didn't answer. He didn't have to. The screen behind him spoke for itself. Her past, projected. Her lies, documented. Her performances, finally seen, without the filter, without the edits. And there she was. Not the woman she tried to be, but the woman she was. And all it took was pressing play. The courthouse lobby smelled like polish and cold air conditioning, sterile, unfeeling, like the place had forgotten what empathy even looked like. Roger stood by the marble column near the exit, calm in a tailored gray jacket, hands loosely folded in front of him. No tie, no briefcase, just one envelope in his hand, cream-colored, heavy stock paper. His face was unreadable, not cold, not cruel, just done. Denise came rushing in like a storm that had run out of wind. Her heels clacked against the stone floor, loud in the silence. She wore black like she was mourning something, but whether it was her marriage or her image, no one could say. Her mascara, applied too carefully, was already smudging at the corners. Her lips trembled from something that wasn't cold. "Roger, wait," she said, half breathless. Can we just talk for 1 second?" He didn't flinch, didn't move toward her, just looked at her like someone examining a house that had already burned down. I didn't think you'd go through with all this. I thought we could, we've been through worse, haven't we?" Her voice cracked like ice under weight. He held out the envelope. Said nothing. She hesitated, then took it with both hands like it might explode. It didn't. It just sat there quiet, final, heavier than it looked. "I didn't mean it the way it sounded that night," she said quickly, rambling now. "The thing I said about Jared, it was stupid. I was drunk. And angry. And it." Roger finally spoke. Calm. Measured. "I see. You said I'm not half the man your ex is." Denise's face crumpled, eyes glassy. She nodded, once. Silent tears now. Raw regret twisted with the realization that nothing she said was going to rewind the last few months. He leaned in slightly, close enough for her to smell the faint scent of black coffee and something like finality. "Turns out," he said softly, "you're not even half the woman I thought you were." Then he turned and walked toward the exit. No yelling, no guilt tripping, no threats of what comes next. Just the sound of his shoes tapping once, twice, then fading into quiet as the heavy doors opened. Denise stood in the center of the lobby, envelope still in hand, shaking, as families and lawyers and strangers passed by, no one stopping, no one seeing her the way she needed to be seen. Inside the envelope was no letter, no parting words, just a single printed page. Finalized agreement. Signed. Filed. Executed. And below that, a small printed quote, faint in gray ink. Some endings aren't loud. They're clean. And for the first time in her life, Denise realized silence could be louder than any revenge.